So, Carl, very early on post your transplant, you moved overseas for work. Can you kind of explain to everyone how what the process is of going overseas and finding a new hospital to kind of like take care of you and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think looking back now, it was a little bit crazy because I was, within I had my transplant around March, early March, and by mid-June, I had like quit my job at a consultancy firm, applied for a role in the UK, and moved to London. And my mum was obviously a bit stressed, but I kind of was in that age period when you're in your mid-20s and you're like, screw it, like let's just go for it. I always wanted to move to Europe, so it all kind of worked out fine. I kind of think back to the time now, and it was very risky in what I did, being so close after the transplant and moving, but I would never change that decision because it completely changed my life. It was probably the best decision I've ever made. And I kind of rolled the dice. So the movement overseas was made much easier through my doctor, who had reached out to a doctor that she knew from the NHS. And it was trying to navigate a new system. Like in Australia, I saw the same doctor for so long. She was my doctor the whole way through from when I was sick when I was a young kid to my transplant. So I had a big trust with her over like a built over a 10-year period. And then I'd kind of moved overseas, and the transplant clinic in the UK was totally different. You go in, you kind of wait in a room with other patients, a lot of other patients, and get called one by one. Usually it was you see a random doctor, but because my doctor had known the other one, I was able to kind of build a relationship with him, and that made things much smoother. It was a bit bumpy because then that doctor eventually retired, and then I was back to the cattle of like being a number, and that was a terrible experience because you're going to this room every day in another country and just seeing a different doctor and repeating your story, which is like the worst.
Yep.
Um, but and the NHS is, I think, being in another country, you feel a different medical system. Um, I would say subjectively, the Australian system for me was much better because I felt more cared for. Whereas in the UK system, it's a bit slower and you're kind of just a number in the system. So you end up feeling a bit less cared for. But yeah, obviously, if you do move overseas, just try and use the network of the doctors that know people. That was what kept in the back of my head when I was traveling or moving other countries, that I really trusted, and I still trust my doctor from Australia, that if anything does go wrong, I have her number in my phone to call. She seems to know lots of doctors around the world, and I could quickly get fixed. And again, touch wood, nothing's happened in any other countries when I've traveled, but use your doctor network to kind of, you know, explore opportunities before moving overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, it is very important that that everyone that wants to travel overseas or work overseas and relocate, that it is important that they definitely check with their own transplant team before they do such a thing.